But this November, the American people are going to tell her, no thanks, Kamala. You've done a terrible job. You've been terrible at everything you've done. You're ultra-liberal, and we don't want you here. We don't want you anywhere. Kamala, you're fired. Get out of here. You're fired.
Yeah. He said the line. He said the line. He's my favorite
and yet
president.
The fake news, which a month ago said she
love
was
him.
incompetent.
I love him so much.
Stiff, just
He's my favorite.
Stiff, the worst. Nobody talked to her. She was firing her
I
staff.
can't wait for him to give all these large companies more tax breaks. Is my favorite thing. I hate BlackRock except for when he's deregulating at the behest of BlackRock. I love when he deregulate companies. That's my president. He's my favorite.
Lying Kamala as if she's the savior of our country. That she's so brave. I've never seen a turnaround like this. 4 weeks ago, she was the worst politician in America. Now they say, isn't it amazing? Look at her. She's so beautiful. She's so magnificent. She has a crowd of 1,000 people the other day. And the fake news, and they worked hard to get that crowd. We have crowds of 25, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70,000.
Oh, he saw the crowds. Oh, he's not happy. He saw the news coverage of the massive room that Kamala packed. He's not happy about
said,
that.
Oh, her crowd was amazing. It was amazing. You see it the other day? She had maybe 1,000 people. I doubt it. They worked their asses off to get those people to go, and I wonder what they gave out. They said, oh, this is such a big crowd. She's got such momentum. I don't think she's going to have a lot of momentum after this speech because I'm telling you about it. We're telling you the facts. I'm just giving you the facts.
This is his,
but they said it was such a big crowd. Such
he's opening up the line of fire. Like he's going to show us what he's going to be attacking her on.
You can multiply her crowds times 20 and 30, and she wouldn't get
Still talking about the crowds. Oh, you know he doesn't like that. Oh, no, that's danger for him. Oh, no.
We're up in New Jersey. 82,000 in South Carolina. 82,000. And by the way, we would have had a number here that would have been through the roof. But, you know, we are confined. As beautiful as this arena is, I just met the owner. He said it's an all-time record. Because, you know, they have basketball, hockey. But with basketball, hockey, you can't fill up the floors, right? So we set the all-time record. And he's a very nice gentleman, great family. But we set the all-time record. And if this thing were twice as large, it would be filled up with the people outside. 68,000 people in the great state of Alabama, 68,000. And then we did one in the South Bronx, and that can be a rough place. But we did one, and it was like a love fest. This was an amazing thing.
Like a love fest.
25,000 people in the South Bronx.
We brought every cop from Staten Island to the Bronx. They had to leave early because they're afraid of the dark.
A crowd like Kamala, assuming she had 2,000 people, which I don't think she did. But if I ever had a crowd, they'd do headline stories.
Bro, he's still, oh my God, the amount of time he's spending on Kamala Harris's crowds is so funny.
And I always say, but they never do it, turn the cameras around to show them the crowd, but they never do it. They never do it. They never want to do it. They just don't want to do it. They don't want to do it. I don't know why. Even the semi-friendly camera, they don't turn. You know, I used to think it was a physical thing with the camera. You know, the steel, you can't turn, you can't turn. And in 2015, it started right from the beginning, these big crowds. But now I have to tell you, there's more spirit now. We won in 2016, but this is bigger than 2020. This is bigger than 2016. And I think the reason is you like me a lot, but you know what you really like? When you look at the incompetent administration that we have with the inflation, with the Afghanistan, with all of the things they've done wrong, everything, the borders are. When you look at how bad they are, you say, you know, I like Trump, but now I really like Trump because we don't want to go back. Front row Joes. Front row Joes. You know, front row Joes, they've been to 201, and they were to a rough one last week. That was a rough one. I saw them. They were sitting in the front row, and things were happening that weren't too nice, right? But they were there, and they didn't move. You know, amazing. Nobody moved. And we had 55,000 people. Nobody ran.
What? Bro said 55,000 people in a town that's population is 13,000.
And
there were not, bro, we can see the crowds, man. It's one of the most televised speeches that you've ever given. There was barely 5,000 people there. At least this happened to him so he could fucking change his like type 5 a little bit. He's reworking it.
They've only played that clip about 5,000 times. They see it every day. It's over and over. But you see how brave. Normally when something like that happens, everybody but Richard will leave. Richard will stay. He's a tough cookie. But no, everybody scrambles. They run. Nobody ran. Thousands and thousands of people. Nobody left. They just stood there watching because they saw that I was in trouble. Either I was in trouble or something was happening because I had a lot of blood on my hand. I checked out. I said, oh, gee, what's this? But no, they saw that. And when I went down, they saw that, and nobody left. It was like, the whole thing is like a big love fest, let's face it. It's a whole big love fest. It's amazing. We love you, man. We love you. We love you.
Yeah, as someone who believed Donald Trump when he said he's never going to tell this story ever again because it's too emotional to tell, I'm personally shocked that he has retold the story at every single media opportunity he's gotten. Let me tell you, I'm flabbergasted. I'm a little shocked. It's confusing because how could he lie to me like that at the RNC?
Show that clip, which will be as soon as you get home. They'll show it about 30 times. They show it every day over and over. But getting back to a subject called Kamala, who's the worst?
Whoa.
You know, I ask you this question because this has never happened before. So Biden's running. I wouldn't say his debate performance was one of the best, right? Do you agree? That's where it all started with the debate. The downfall started that night with the debate. The debate was like, that was a rough debate. He said, yeah, I had a bad night. No, he had a bad night. He had a bad everything. He had a very bad night. But it started really with the debate. It was all, you know, the game was up. They say the jig was up. And it was indeed up, but it started with that, and then it only got worse. And we were leading him by 11, 12, 14, 15 points, and then he decides to get out because the bosses said, we're not going to have you. He didn't want to get out, but they told him, you're getting out. They said, you're getting out. So now they bring in this one who's worse than him. She's worse than him because he's a fake liberal. You know, he wasn't that liberal. He was fake. She's a real liberal. She really is a real liberal. Now, if we start beating her in the polls by 10 or 15 points, are they going to bring in a third candidate? It's like, you know, Trump is killing this guy. All right, out. Let's bring in a new one. Out, out. And then maybe at some point they get one right, but when will that stop? And, you know, the guy had 14 million votes. So much for democracy. You know, they talk about democracy.
Yeah.
He had 14 million votes, and they said, we're going to give it to somebody with no votes. She had no votes. In addition to her horrendous record as vice president, Kamala Harris has also been caught red-handed perpetrating the biggest scandal in American political history. For 3.5 years, Harris shamelessly lied to the public to cover up Joe Biden's mental unfitness, claiming that Crooked Joe was at the absolute top of his game. I don't think so. I don't think so. I wish him well, but I don't like him. He's not a nice person. He's trying to put me in jail. Why would I like him, right? That's the first time. Oh, first time. And she's the one behind it. And she's got a new line, you know. She's going, I'm the prosecutor. She's one of the worst prosecutors in history. She destroyed San Francisco. I'm the prosecutor, and he's the convicted felon or something. A radical left judge in an area where every one of these cases, every one of them is brought by them. So think of it. They get me to that position, and then their campaign says, I'm the prosecutor, and he is the convicted felon. That's their campaign. I don't think people are going to buy it. And we won our big case. You know, we won the case in Florida. That was a big one. We won that one. And I got out by beating their Justice Department, and he got out of the same case, except his was far different because he had 50 years of documents, right? He got out by being incompetent. The prosecutor said he had no memory. He basically said he's incompetent, so he shouldn't stand trial. Can you imagine? He can be president, but he can't stand trial. What's that about? But it was all headed up by her because she's a prosecutor, a really bad one. If Kamala will lie to you so brazenly about Joe Biden.
He's trying so hard to slap Joe Biden and Kamala Harris together. It's just not going to work. To be fair, it's tough.
And
it's
just
tough
like
to do.
crooked Joe Biden, Kamala Harris is unfit to lead. She's unfit to lead. She'll destroy our country in a year. This country will be destroyed. A vote for Kamala is a vote for 4 more years of dishonesty, incompetence, weakness, and failure. Other than that, she's doing an excellent job. A vote for Trump Vance. How do you like it? How do you like it? J.D. Vance. How do you like him? A vote for Trump Vance administration.
Yes, he's going to keep saying her name wrong, and I don't think Kamala Harris should ever fucking turn around and be like, wow, that's really fucked up that you're doing that. You're sexist and racist. I think the greatest thing that Democrats could do is just like let them be weird about that shit and not just like invoke identity unless it directs back to policy. Okay, just ignore it. Run a good campaign. Because that type of shit will relitigate culture war back and forth over and over again. And it's just not like a fun argument for a lot of people. I think it's like very depressive. Just let them be weird on their own. Just make them look weird. Be like, yeah, that's weird. Okay.
Here's just some of her crazy liberal record. Kamala Harris co-sponsored Bernie Sanders' $32 trillion plan for a socialist takeover of the entire U.S. health system, which will be a disaster and will bankrupt Medicare and Social Security. They're gone.
My favorite is like
Social Security is
a group of fucking North Carolinians who are like, you know, from a diverse background, but like there's still plenty of working poor there being like, yeah, I hate socialized medicine. I hate that. That's crazy. Yeah. Bring up how close Kamala Harris is to Bernie Sanders. That's a good idea.
Private health insurance.
Bring up how close Kamala Harris is in policy to Bernie Sanders. That is certainly going to be a really good idea to do. I love that. Literally, like on the one front, you have Joe Biden that you're trying to haphazardly slap back on Kamala Harris with. And on the other hand, you have one of the most historically consistently popular congresspersons in the United States of America.
She said that a 70 to 80% tax hike is, quote, a bold idea that should be discussed. She wants an 80%. You know, I gave you the largest tax cuts in history. She wants to take them away and increase your taxes. I don't think you're going to be too happy. Kamala publicly boasted, quote, there's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking. She wants no fracking. Now, that pertains to Pennsylvania, Texas. It pertains to Oklahoma. It pertains to a lot of other places, more so than you. But it pertains to you where your wallet, because you're going to be paying a lot of money. You're going to be paying so much. You're going to say, bring back Trump, please, please, please bring back Trump. We want Trump. We want some common sense, please. She supports mandatory gun confiscation to rip firearms out of the hands of millions of law-abiding gun owners. She wants to take away your Second Amendment, which we need. Lion Kamala is also a total radical on a word called, do you know this, right? A word called what? Abortion. She's a radical, crazy person. When you compare my position on abortion to that of Kamala Harris, my position is 8 points higher in the polls, and that's because she is so radical.
That's awesome. This framing is not going to work, dude. I love that he's talking about this in North Carolina, though. How the fuck is post-birth landing to anyone? Dude, they're Republicans. 90% of their policy is born out of hysteria. The Republican Party does not have any policy prescriptions for genuine problems that people are facing. It is almost all propped the fuck up by Republican panic, Republican hysteria. Keep repeating it over and over again. And these guys also keep repeating those fucking lies until they genuinely believe it. And then they're like, yeah, only the Republicans. Why don't you listen? You just talk. Dude, what is happening right now? Like, Donald Trump is literally live right now on this platform. You can go watch him directly if you want to hear his beautiful words.
Then Kamala Harris is your candidate. She's the one for you. Just like she destroyed San Francisco, she will destroy our entire country. And let me tell you, it's in pretty bad shape right now anyway. What they've done in 3.5 years, especially, I mean, think of Afghanistan, the most embarrassing day in the history of our country. We got out of weakness. We were going to get out, but we were going to get out of strength and dignity.
His plan, by the way.
Steel bottoms, they're all guarded up for the horrible bombs that they had to endure.
His plan, by the way, even though it is politically courageous that Joe Biden followed through on it.
You know, 47, that's an important number. And basically, she's a very bad person, and she shouldn't be running for president. She is a threat to democracy, a true threat to democracy. She'll destroy our nation. But if you want no inflation, low gas prices, how about $1.87? And we had it actually lower than that. If you want energy independence, and even now energy dominance, we're going to be dominant. You know, you have to see the chart. And my favorite chart of all, of course, some of you would understand what I mean, was the immigration chart. Because I looked over and I said, look at that chart. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? It's my all-time favorite chart. Man, am I lucky to show that chart? I said, let me see that chart. Let me see that chart. Pull it down.
Such a fake friend to China if he's talking about gas prices. It's bullshit.
But if you want the greatest economy in history again, and freedom, if you want freedom, real freedom, because we're going in a very bad direction, then you must vote for a gentleman named, perhaps you've heard of him, Donald J. Trump. Perhaps you've heard of him.
We're watching my goat right now.
Is he live?
Yeah, he is. But he's actually not that good. He's tried his like new stuff on Kamala. He's talked about being shot.
He's in the swimming.
Have you ever had Dr. Pepper strawberries and cream? It's pretty good.
I've had the strawberry one. He's really feeling bad about Vance. He's really like, I fucked up.
But she got, as you know, very badly injured.
This is what it's like when you commit to a
wind burn,
like a 3-stack.
Burned by the wind. He went so
good.
fast by her.
And you're like, it'll go by quick.
She suffered massive wind burn. Every single open border policy of the Biden-Harris administration. And we will seal the border and we will stop Kamala Harris invasion without delay. It'll happen immediately.
You know what I realized was the problem with the Trump campaign even before they scared the Democrats into like just baseline competence? There was like an...
You mean an undemocratic coup, according to Barstool's very own Dave Portnoy.
Dave Portnoy. Why wasn't Dave Portnoy at the Netanyahu speech? That's his
Elon was,
but Dave wasn't. But I was, the thing that I think turned people off, even like the reason that Trump never pulled out, like, you know, 9 points ahead of Joe, right? Even when people were fucking sick of Joe, the inevitability aura of Trump 2024. It's the same thing that cursed Hillary 2016. Just the presumptive inevitability of like, well, it's, you know, so we're going to get it. It really annoys people. It deeply pisses people off.
And it also like blunts your otherwise like sound instincts. Like when you listen to Donald Trump Jr. and make your vice presidential pick JD Vance, who according to CNN last night, did you see the poll?
Yeah.
That was like
worst ever, -6.
Like we're historically unpopular. They're like, we've never had a VP pick be underwater in popularity.
The little thumbnail of JD Vance with worst ever, that's replaced my previous favorite screenshot, David Perdue, totally exonerated, no wrongdoing.
Oh, yeah, no wrongdoing.
Those are my 2 favorites now.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, our crime rate is going up, despite the fact that they like to say it's not. Come on.
Oh.
Well, crime statistics.
It's a lot. Yeah, the FBI is woke and gay. That's why they're lying about the crime stats.
Are taking their criminal elements and they're bringing them into the United States of America. Kamala Harris could not pass her bar exams, but she's going to be a great president, right?
Wait, he gave money to Kamala Harris when she was running for AG, like
not
twice.
Even that long ago.
Yeah, that's what I don't understand. Like, Like when he's like, oh, she's a bad AG. So why'd you give her $6,000? Like,
he just seems so like
some of them actually
deflated
have half
and
of their
resigned
prison
to it.
population
Like it
still.
wasn't like,
I
oh,
wouldn't
she
have any.
didn't pass the
Richard
bar.
wouldn't have any. You and I would, our
What a
country
shitty
would be
vice
the
president. She's like,
safest
oh yeah,
country.
she'll be a
Every
great
criminal
president.
would be in the United States of America. I can tell
You guys are gonna be really happy when I lose.
Criminal would already be here. Every jail would be empty. Every mental institution, insane asylum would be empty. They'd all be in the United States. And that's what, in a short period of time, that's what's going to happen. We're going to have all of their criminals. The only thing good about them is they make our criminals look like very nice people by comparison.
but the problem is like these guys literally believe it. Like they are hallucinating in a completely different reality. Do you think that people will have like a negative reaction to this like crime panic narrative over and over again? I feel like Americans are far too fashy and far too draconian when it comes to criminal justice to ever let loose on this, like ever get negatively polarized against this kind of narrative.
I mean, it's hard to say because like immigration is one of the few things in like the GOP social policy toolkit that it's not as much of a double-edged sword as other social issues, right? You don't get quite as much blowback.
Ironically, because they can't vote.
Right. Right.
Literally, despite the fact that that's the #1 thing that Republicans claim, they can't vote, so they have no say in the matter.
But I don't think it quite turns people off as much in the same way as like hyper focusing on like, you know, the one like trans collegiate swimmer in America or whatever, right?
Riley Gaines.
Like it's weird.
She was robbed, folks. She got 5th place.
Americans are just so weird on immigration.
How much money? 750. Inform them that
you know,
dude, they're so fucked on immigration. I always go back to the same thing, but like amnesty for DACA recipients is like 90% approval rating, so much so that even Trump couldn't like actually get himself to fully like abort or fully deport these people. Beyond that though, historically, we are at the highest level that we've ever seen in terms of like crowd reception to like majority reception to like mass deportation.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
It's at like 60%, but also the very same people I remember during the early Trump years, you would ask Trump voters directly, what do you think about like amnesty for people that have like lived here, conditional amnesty for migrants that have lived here for an extended period of time? And that was like a broadly popular policy. So Americans literally on the issue of immigration, because they live around undocumented migrants, because like every American knows like at least one undocumented migrant, no matter how sheltered they are, no matter how like segregated their communities are, they have met an undocumented migrant. There's like 10 million plus undocumented migrants in this country, right? They're not all just like living in trailer parks and working at the chicken factory. Like they're you know, barbacks. They're working at restaurants. They're working all around us. For that reason, Americans also simultaneously have this attitude where they are very receptive to amnesty for undocumented migrants in the same breath while they advocate to deport all of them.
Right. No, yeah, that's what I mean. Like on some ways since like 2012 or 2014, the average American view on immigration has drifted more. It's become more like the average like EU view on it, you know, like a bit more restrictive. But at the same time, certain individual policies or sets of actions are so far beyond, like so far to the left of even what like the center left position in like an EU country or the UK.
Yeah, that's the one aspect of like American society that has like fairly, I guess, quote unquote, progressive in comparison to Europe.
Yeah, no, it's weird.
That what you're describing is literally what happened with abortion. Even though it was like a 40-year project for the Republican Party, like them finally following through on that was like a major misstep, because it was much easier it was much more politically sound for them to continue dangling in front of the evangelical base instead of like actually fully committing to it, because there are far more people in this country, like objectively far more people in this country are going to be upset and have their lives disrupted by this policy change. Like they're always going to be reminded of it anytime they see something about it anytime they see something like that on screen in like in the media. Like they're going to be reminded that like the Republicans did that. That is a legitimate problem with the Republican Party now, is that they just kind of won so much for so long that they believe that they are more popular than they actually are. Like they believe that, you know, talking about how Kamala Harris doesn't have a child and therefore is not invested in this nation's future is like a good narrative to run on, because they think like, oh, well, people on Twitter think that that's a good narrative.
Wait, what I've been so fascinated by is, you know, in a lot of ways, this both 2022 and now 2024 have been replays, like mirrored replays of classic Democratic fuck ups, right? And with 2024, what I think is so amazing, they went through all the trouble of like acquiring Twitter, of Elon Musk acquiring Twitter, something he ultimately did not really want to do, going through all that trouble. And their ultimate upside for that, right, is that they can finally make like the timeline like reflective of their views. You know, whether it's very surface level or not is a different thing. But on balance, from like 2014 to, I don't know, 2020 was probably like more liberal, like a broader Silicon Valley type of liberalism. And now it's more conservative. Like if you click on your For You tab, I get some Manuals, I get some Manual accounts, but I mostly get, you know, like, you know, Patriot Deborah. And she's like, Kamala's the Hawk 2 candidate.
You want to know something crazy though? Like actually not being on Twitter all that much and not having it be on my, like only looking at Twitter when I'm live and not having it on my phone has greatly reduced the number of like blue check mark you know, Twitter farmers. I still get the occasional Ben Shapiro tweet crying, as you can see here, about like the American flag being burned or whatever. Beyond that, it's just mostly people that I interact with, because the doom scrolling, I think, is like greatly boosting.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean, is like for hyperactive users, the like For You were trending, you know, before For You existed, that trended more like Silicon Valley liberal. Now it's like weirdo Silicon Valley right winger mixed with 100 other things, if you're like a very active user on the mobile app. But what I think is so interesting about that is one of the big problems with Hillary 2016, the Kamala 2020 primary campaign, was this, or Warren 2020 especially, was this problem that left liberals had where they thought the timeline was broadly reflective of reality. And they would go out there and realize no one had any fucking clue what they were talking about. Conservatives went through the trouble of buying Twitter to make the timeline reflect their thoughts, and then forgot that they did that. And we're like, well, everyone on fucking Twitter agrees. I bet everyone will love it when we talk about how this stupid bitch doesn't have any kids and she blew everyone. And we'll love it. It gets a lot of retweets.
That is also so like unappealing to broad swaths of the population that they unironically are not even they are like, people are leaving the platform. You know what I mean? Like people are like, Twitter has lost 74% of its revenue since Elon's takeover, like a shit ton of users, shit ton of active users. The entire platform is like botted to oblivion. It's less reflective of reality than even before. And it certainly wasn't reflective of reality even back then. So, I mean, it's great. They're like, they're huffing their own farts in this hug box that they've created for themselves. But it's, I think, causing them forget their original instincts and forget that like you have to lie if you're a Republican about your actual policy positions